In Devil May Cry 5, Special Edition, Vergil's devil trigger now has him use Doppelganger, forming a spectral copy of his devil form to attack in unison with him. His new demon form is now officially recognized as his own Sin Devil trigger form, having the same activation requirements as Dante's, albeit still retaining the healing ability plus the ability to deactivate at any time before the Sin Devil trigger runs out. While in this form, Vergil gains new follow-up strikes to many of his combo attacks and enhancements to his other moves, along with the ability to use exceptionally powerful moves that would normally deplete his entire Sin Devil trigger gauge for only a portion of his remaining meter. After reforming, Vergil's new devil form transforms him into a demon, greatly enhanced to the point of him being able to match Dante's Sin Devil trigger. It has 4 wings folded down in a similar manner to the tails of Vergil's coat in his original Devil trigger, blue arm-mounted energy blades, and a thick reptilian tail with a barbed tip that extends from between his shoulders. While the head appears to be shaped like his form in Devil May Cry 4, Vergil's new Devil trigger resembles a traditional samurai helmet more, with the horns assuming hollowed and tube-like shapes, venting demonic energy in a manner resembling exhausts. In addition to developing a few air techniques, the ability to regenerate health, and the ability to create an energy construct of himself in a similar manner to Vergil from the reboot, Vergil's overall attacks and defense are increased as well. Sin Devil Trigger is one of Vergil's starting abilities. Transforming him into true devil, it increases his speed, attack power, and defense, as well as recovers his vitality. Unlike the boss character, player Vergil cannot fly an SDT. SDT is represented by the dark blue gauge between the Vitality and DT gauges, which starts glowing when fully charged. SDT gauge must be accumulated expending the DT gauge by holding the SDT/Doppelganger button while in human form. However, it takes less amount of DT, about 10 bars, to fill the SDT than Dante's. As 10 bars is the limit of the DT gauge, this means that Vergil can completely fill his SDT gauge from a single full DT gauge. Vergil's SDT is activated by holding the button when the gauge is full and can be cancelled at any time by a simple press before it's emptied. Also, the SDT won't deplete for a few seconds after transformation, allowing to cancel it after a couple of attacks and reactivate again, much like with Dante's Quadruple S, but without additional conditions. Purchasable ability Trigger Heart slows down the SDT gauge depletion. With Trigger Heart, the SDT gauge depletes within 20 seconds. SDT Activation Burst deals damage, produces a blue-colored energy shockwave, and can launch nearby enemies. If no action is taken during this activation, there is a small animation action which accompanies it. If Vergil is doing anything when SDT is triggered, however, he will continue to perform whatever action he had been performing rather than the animation. The burst damage can be negated if Vergil activates one of his super attacks while transforming. The shockwave may still appear, but enemies won't be affected in any way. Vergil's SDT, unlike Dante's, doesn't have a separate moveset, but rather allows to use all of Vergil's weapons: Yamato, Beowulf, Mirage Edge Yamato Dual Wield, and Mirage Blades, with some of their attacks getting alterations, additional hits, and other properties, like his Dmc5 SE Devil Trigger. Doppelganger can be used with SDT, although it has to be controlled using the D-pad only. Additionally, while an SDT side roll is replaced with dash and back jump with trick down, like in Dmc4 SE. Vergil can use his SDT gauge to perform super attacks with his main weapons, Judgment Cut and with Yamato, Hell on Earth with Beowulf, and Deep Stinger with Mirage Edge Yamato. These attacks require concentration level 2 and can be performed either in human form with a full SDT gauge or an SDT. If in human form, the entire unused SDT gauge is depleted. If used while in SDT, each use of those super moves will deplete only a portion, 30%, of the gauge while dealing increased damage. 4 of these attacks can be performed with a full gauge in SDT, as the final attack will simply consume the remaining 10% of the gauge. So long as Vergil is in SDT, one of these moves can be performed regardless of how little of the gauge is full. If the gauge is reduced to 0 by the activation of one of these abilities, Vergil will still perform the attack and remain in SDT until the attack is complete. Summoning the Doppelganger while in SDT massively increases Vergil's damage output, particularly with his Yamato A combo, Perfect Judgment Cuts, and Void Slash. In fact, simply spamming Perfect Judgment Cuts and/or Void Slashes in SDT with the Doppelganger active can take out even boss characters absurdly quickly. However, the Doppelganger does not copy Vergil's super attacks and will disappear if one is activated.
Let's have some fun.